Hello everyone, this is Jennifer from Jennifer Biedermann Jewelry. Welcome back to another video. I'm really excited because I actually invest in some video software editing tool, whatever you call it. I'm trying to make my videos a little bit more professional looking and minimize the background noise. Okay, and we can see the projects before we start. So what we're going to be making is this beautiful pendant. I'm really excited about it. Love the way it turned out. And we'll be using this beautiful focal stone and some Swarovski crystals and some wire. And so I'm going to give you your material list so that we can go ahead and get started. All right, so here's your material list. It's a pretty short list. You'll need 6 pieces of 22 gauge wire, dead soft, approximately 40 centimeters each. 28 gauge weaving wire, approximately 400 centimeters. I didn't measure. I never measure. I just cut as I need and I add as I need. You'll also be needing a focal stone. I'm using this red jasper 30 millimeter round stone, and I'll be using 4 Swarovski bicones. Of course, you need the usual suspects, which are the pliers and the cutters. Okay, so get your wire cut and to length, and then we're going to get started on the project right away. Okay, so I've cut all my wires. You're going to have 6 wires. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So on wire 1, you're just going to coil twice to anchor your weave. We're going to do a modified sumac weave here. So you're going to come up and around wire 1 and 2. I'm always adjusting my wires so that I can have a channel. Go between wire 1 and 2, then up and around wire 2 and 3, between wire 2 and 3, up and around wire 3 and 4, between wire 3 and 4, up and around wire 4 and 5, then between wire 4 and 5. Now, go up and around wire 5 and 6, but you're going to go between wire 5 and 4, and then you're going to coil around once around wire 5. Okay, so just remember, and you're going to do this all the way down. So as you're going up, you're going around 2 wires, and as you're coming down, you're going to be coiling around 1 wire. Okay, that's the modified sumac weave. So now you're coiling around the last wire on this rotation. Now we're starting a new rotation. So you're going to come up and around wire 1 and 2, and then between wire 1 and 2. Now, depending on the size of your stone that you used, you don't have to use a round. You can use an oval. You can use whatever size you want. But in my case, with a 30 millimeter round stone, I weaved about 5 centimeters approximately. So I'm just going to show you how I weave a little bit faster. And as you see, I'm weaving quite loosely, but when I compress, it tightens everything up. You don't want to do it too loose, and you don't want to do it too tight. You'll get the feel of it as you go, and you'll get a momentum with this weave. It's a nice tight condensed weave. I really like this modified sumac weave. Always compress as you go. Compress, compress, compress. So this is how your weave should be looking so far. Now, once I've done my length, I will cut off that tail, pinch it down with some pliers so that nothing is sticking out. And always check to make sure that it can't snag on anything or scratch the skin. So I'm just going to make a nice little curve. Pull that base wire out to place my stone on. Now, if you've placed your stone on and you feel like you don't have enough weave, just continue weaving, or if you had too much, just take off weave. Now here I'm going to do a lot of checking and adjusting. I'm going to bring that wire that I placed the bead on around the back of the 6-wire weave. And I'm going to anchor it by wrapping around that weave once. Hold your weave in place as you're doing this, and then you want to readjust your weave and adjust everything so it's sitting where you want it to sit, and push everything down with the pliers. Then what we're going to do with with the wires left is we're just going to continue that modified sumac weave to come around to the other side. So I'm just positioning everything so that I'm ready to start the new weave. Well, the same weave, but I'm going to be going all the way around the actual stone to the other side. So I've completed the weave to wrap around the entire stone, and I'm going to cut my weaving wire. I've already tested it that it reaches to the other side before I cut that off. And I'm really going to adjust here to make sure that it's sitting where I want. And I'm going to move these wires out of the way, 5 wires, and I'm going to take that one wire closest to the stone and I'm going to wrap it around that wire that the bead's on. And I'm going to go around twice to make sure it's anchored. And then I'm going to cut away that wire and discard the excess. Just checking to make sure I don't cut the wrong wire. And I'm just going to cut that and push it down with my pliers so that it's anchored and I know that it's not going to go anywhere, and also so it doesn't stick out and scratch anybody's skin while wearing the piece. Always check. Now that wire there sticking at the bottom, I thought I was going to use it, but I decided I'm not going to need it. I have enough wires at the top of the piece, and I'm just going to cut that away. And again, always push down with your pliers. Okay, now the fun part, because now we get to make some layers. I'm going to be working with 3 wires. I'm just adjusting everything so they're in place. So I'm going to be working with the wires that are on the right there. So 3 wires on the right. I'm going to start with the second to the last base wire, and I'm going to coil around that wire 3 times. Here I'm being very careful because whenever I start a new weave on wires this close, it can get bunched up. So I'm going to adjust my wires so it's sitting close, and now I'm going to weave around these 2 wires 3 times. And then I'm going to go between those 2 wires. Now when I push it down with my finger, see how it didn't compress properly? I will take my nylon pliers and push that down. That always happens to me when I'm starting a new weave right at the base of a previous weave. So coil around 3 times around one base wire, then both wires 3 times. And you're going to do this for about, I would say, 2 centimeters to 2.5 centimeters until you just have enough to turn it into a counterclockwise turn. So I'm going to hold that weave with my thumb, and I'm going to turn it counterclockwise. Now it looks a little wonky here. I don't like the way it's sitting, but I'm going to adjust it with my pliers gently, not to mar the weave wires. I didn't like the way it's sitting, so I'm just going to adjust it with my pliers again. Take that last wire that's sitting next to it and turn it into that curl. So now you're going to be working on 3 wires. Sorry, a little bit out of frame. Now what we're doing is we're going to do the 3, well, I guess it's 3-3 weave. You're going to weave around 2 base wires 3 times. Go between those 2 wires. Compress. See how it's really hard when you first start the weave. Bring my pliers in, take my time and adjust. Then you're going to go and weave around the bottom 2 wires 3 times. And you're going to do this all the way around the stone. The image isn't great here, I can see, because the sun is like hitting my piece and it's not great on the camera. Sorry about that, guys. See, now I don't like the way that curl is sitting still, so I'm still going to adjust it. See, I'm just going to push it up a little bit. When I started this project, I didn't know what I was going to do, so you're going to see me pause now and then to look at the piece to see what I'm going to do next. So I went all the way around the piece, and I did it so that I went around and past that wrap that I had there that's sitting on top of that weave. And here I'm just going to place 1 base wire at a time underneath, and I'm going to adjust to where I want it positioned. And I'm going to bring that wire and wrap around the entire weave again, just so that everything is anchored. And push everything down with my pliers. Cut that excess off. Okay, see, now I'm trying to figure out what to do with these 2 wires. I thought I was going to weave it, but I decided to put a bead, a 4mm Swarovski black crystal, and I decided that because I wanted to, it's a great way to hide that base wire that's wrapped around my weave, and I love the way it turned out. So you just place it down, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap this wire carefully around the bead a few times. Always holding my bead in place so it doesn't move out of the way. And I'm checking to see if I need to wrap around again, and I am. And then at this point, I'm going to anchor this base wire on that 6-wire weave. Use your pliers to help fish that wire through if need be. Pinch everything down, and I'm going to cut it and discard the excess, and again push down with my pliers. I'm not going to use this weaving wire, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that away. And I'll put that aside and use it later. And with this last base wire, I'm checking to see what I'm going to do, and I decided to just wrap it around that bead again. Wrap it around the bead and then anchor it around that 6-wire weave. Cut and discard the excess, and again pinch down with your pliers. Now we have these last 2 wires to deal with on the right side. Now with the rightmost wire, I'm just going to do a single coil. I always start at the top. It's a lot easier, a lot faster. And you just coil, coil, coil. And every little bit, maybe a centimeter or so, stop and compress that weave. And just continue coiling. This you can coil the whole piece before you turn it into that counterclockwise curl, because you're going to be doing the weave all the way around the stone. So now I'm going to just guide it around that previous little swirl. And just shape it down that previous weave, the 3-wire weave I did. And I see that I need to add more coils. So if you have too many coils, you unravel, and if you don't have enough, just add as needed. We'll cut away that weaving wire and then just fish that base wire underneath the weave. I'm just making sure that everything's sitting the way I want it. Now I can really anchor it. Don't anchor anything until you have everything sitting, like I said, the way where you want it positioned. Because once it's anchored, that's it. Because the base wires will be way too, it's going to be in place, so it'll be hard to undo that. And then I'm going to cut the excess of this base wire. Now this last wire on the right side, I'm going to place a bead. And I want to put a bead here just to offset or balance out that bead at the bottom. And also to hide that gap that I feel that's going to be in between. I don't want to see any gaps. And I'll just wrap around this a few times. And I'll be cutting the excess, or tucking it in and cutting the excess away. So to anchor it, I'm just going to fish it underneath that 3-wire weave. Making sure it's close to the actual bead. And back under and cut the excess. Now I'm just looking at my piece and figuring out what to do next. I'm pretty much going to mirror what I did on the right side, but to get it sitting right and turned here, I'm just going to separate 3 wires from the 2 wires, and I'll be working on the outer, the leftmost 3 wires. So I'm going to get those 2 wires there out of the way, and I'm going to be coiling around the middle wire 3 times, then around 2 base wires 3 times. Do it for about 2 to 2.5 centimeters in length. Do it the same as you did on the other side, the length. And I'll be going down the bottom 2 base wires this time because of the way I'm turning it. And that one compressed pretty well. I didn't need my pliers. this point, I'm just going to cut away my tail as close to the piece as possible and continue that weave. Now I'm going to turn this into a clockwise turn so it mirrors the other side. And then I'm going to turn that other base wire into that curl. And now I'm going to do a wrap around 2 base wires 3 times and the other 2 base wires 3 times and do that all around the weave. I'm just making sure that my weave is neat here. Okay, so I went all around down the other side. Now I'm trying to figure out where am I going to tuck this in. So I'm going to kind of bring up the curve here, checking to see where I want it placed. And I'm going to put all 3 wires underneath. Now I'm looking at saying, what am I going to do with these 3 wires here? And what I decided to do was rather start a new weave. I wanted to hide, well, I'm going to anchor this, these base wires again, but I wanted to hide those wraps. So what I'm going to do is just place a couple of beads just to hide that, and I think it turned out really nicely. So I'm adjusting, I'm checking, I'm pushing, I'm just checking everything. Now, these 3 wires, again, as you can see, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those yet, but I ended up putting beads on those. I'll show you in a minute. Now, these last 2 wires, we're going to do the same weave, but just on 2 wires. So you're going to coil on 1 wire 3 times, and you're going to coil on both wires 3 times. And you're going to curl that into that previous swirl and shape it around your stone. Now you see here, I'm coiling around the rightmost wire 3 times and then doing both wires 3 times. I would suggest coiling on the leftmost wire 3 times and then coiling around both wires, because I'm turning that into a counterclockwise turn, excuse me, and it was easier, I did change it, it was easier to do it the other way than what you're seeing here. So you can see that I changed my weave because I needed to turn that. It was just easier to do it that way. So I'm just going to turn that in, push it down with my pliers, adjust, and then I'm going to bring that weave all the way down to follow the other weave. I'm going to continue that weave. So I weaved enough length to curve it around the previous weave. And I'm going to bring those wires down to anchor that 2-wire weave. Sorry, I'm out of frame. Now, what happened here was I was putting this together and I thought I was filming and I didn't film. So what I did was, okay, just so you know, those 5 wires that were there, I cut away 3 and I took 2 wires and I added beads and I did little clusters. I'm very sorry about that, but that's what happened. So I hope you like this tutorial, and if you like it, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.